Yes, we can. That's perfectly great.
Thank you. Thank you. My apologies, dear families. Once again, Carlin Aguilera Fort, Superintendent of Schools, and it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome each one of you to this webinar. Today, we are excited to share with you that we are ready to welcome each one of our students to our schools for the school year 2021-2022. We know that you have several questions, and we will do our best to provide as much information as possible and available at this point. We will continue providing more information as we learn more about different regulations. However, what we can tell you right now is we are coming back. The first day of school is August 24, and we will be ready to welcome, to open the schools, to open the classrooms for our students. We are preparing every single detail so that you and your child feel safe and are assured that the school district, the staff, is doing everything in our power to make sure that your child will be safe and that will receive the highest quality education. Today, we want to share with you some details about the back to school. We'll have members of the team sharing with you, number one, the instructional program and what will happen and what are the options for you. And then we will have members of the rest of the teams sharing with you what are the procedures to prevent and to actually mitigate factors related to COVID-19. And we will do our best to respond to the questions that you are asking on the chat. And if we are not able to respond each one of them today, we will do our best to provide the responses within the next few days. So again, August 24th, we are ready and we welcome the students. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Ana De Llena. She is the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, and she will share with us about the instructional program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aguilera Flor. Good afternoon to all of our families and our community out there. It's exciting to be here today to talk a little bit about our instructional program as we begin our in-person learning for the 21-22 school year. As Dr. Aguilera Flor mentioned, our first day of school for students is on August 24th. We will have full-time in-person instruction for 5 days a week. Later in the presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about other options. Next slide, please. Okay, so our instructional program, as I mentioned, is going to be going to resume to a very similar program as it was pre-COVID scheduled. So our schools will be full-time. Our students will have recess, and they will be allowed to go into the playground. They will have lunchtime and will be also allowed to be in the playground. We will not be using desk shields at this time. School hours will be located for you on the district. They are located for you already on the district website and also on your school website. And you will be getting, if you haven't already received, our schools will be sending out information that is unique to their school and to your children. Students will continue to use some of the digital content that we had prior, so that we learned a great deal during this time and these 18 months or so that we spent in distance learning. We were able to advance our use of technology in the classroom, and we want to continue to reinforce that and use that as much as possible during our in-person instruction. That includes the use of Canvas as our student management system in order to maintain communication with all of our families, and in order to have all of our families be involved in the learning of their students and be up to date with what's going on with their students in terms of their work. We will also continue to use Lexia Core 5 in the elementary school and Lexia Power Up in the middle school with our students, as well as ST Math. Next slide, please. At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Jody Nocero, and she is our Director of Pupil Services, to talk about another option for you.
Good evening.
May I pause for just a second? I'm
Yes.
going to stop share. I think we have one of our translators that is not connected. So Norma, are you connected in? Okay. I think that there might not be sound for you, Norma, so please check your microphone. Okay, sorry about that. Dr. Nocero, please proceed.
No problem. So good evening, families. I do want to discuss just an option called independent study. So for the 2021-22 school year, this state is requiring that we offer an independent study option. Parents and guardians can request independent study for health-related concerns. Information is posted on the website, will be posted on the website for more information. Just a little bit about the requirements prior to enrolling in independent study. There will be a pupil parent educator conference where the administrator will go through the agreement with you and the requirements. The independent study option will provide content aligned to grade level standards for each of the students. Next slide, please. Through this policy AB 130 that is requiring independent study this year, there are a couple of different definitions. One of them is live interaction, and that is live connection between the student and a school representative, a district representative. It could be the teacher, it could be any school staff, so a counselor, ORC. The synchronous instruction is that teaching piece where the student would be online or in live interaction, either via Zoom or some live interaction with the teacher. And then the pupil parent educator conference, that would entail obviously the student, the parent and the teacher, but also any other school personnel involved with that student. So it may be a counselor or some other school personnel. Next slide, please. Some of the other requirements in this bill are daily live interaction, and that looks a little bit different between grade level spans. So for grades TK through third grade, it would be daily synchronous instruction for all students throughout the year. And then for grades 4-8, it would be daily live interaction. So not live interaction with their teacher necessarily, but live interaction, as I stated prior, with a school staff member. And then at least weekly synchronous instruction for all pupils throughout the school year. So they would meet with their teacher at a minimum once per week for instruction. I do want to say that it's different than our distance learning last year. This is an independent study option, so it would not be online Zoom at the same schedule as last year. So it is a different option than the distance learning that we had. Next slide, please. So some additional requirements. We do have measures of satisfactory educational progress. So the teacher will continue to monitor progress throughout the year. There are something called tiered re-engagement strategies. So if a student is missing the live interaction or the synchronous instruction meetings, or they are missing assignments and they're not turning in assignments, we have some steps to re-engage students back into the program. And if it becomes to a point where we've tried to put in supports, it gets to a point where they are no longer engaging, we will ask that they come back into the in-person instruction. There is a process for swift transition out of independent study if the parent requests it. We have supports built in for students, provision of connectivity devices adequate to participate in the program. So if you need assistance with the internet connectivity. And then provisions for communicating academic progress with families. So just as in-person instruction, you would receive, report cards and progress monitoring for your students. Students with an IEP or a 504 plan must have an IEP meeting or a 504 meeting before they are enrolled in the independent study program. It has to be written into the IEP plan or the 504 plan. And then we have to document participation in live interaction and synchronous instruction daily, and we must maintain evidence of pupil engagement. So on our end, we will be keeping records of students' attendance and their turning in of all of the work, their submission of work throughout the program. Thank you. And I will, I believe, Dr. Shea, this is yours.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. The after-school program will be offered for students this year. The program will run from the end of the school day until 6 p.m. Applications are available online, and families are beginning, we've just been going through the notification process, so families are receiving calls this week and early next week to notify them of acceptance into the program. If you're still interested in applying, please locate the application on the OSD Oxnard School District webpage. Thank you.
Good evening. In regards to technology, all of our TKK and new students will receive their iPads the first week of school. Also, the district will continue to use Canvas, ST Math, and Lexia as a part of our adopted curriculum. If a student has a damaged iPad, we ask that you simply return the iPad to the school site so that the student can get a replacement iPad. There is no charge for damages, so please take advantage of this opportunity. And remember that you cannot send an iPad out to a third party for repair since we already cover that. In regards to hotspots, the Wi-Fi portable hotspots, if you have one, you may continue to use it. We will simply be sending you out a letter and request that you let us know you want to continue to use the hotspot. If you don't need it, please return it back to us. And if you do not have one, we will post the application for Wi-Fi hotspots on our website beginning the first week of school. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Transportation will resume the first day of school. Masks must be worn regardless of vaccination status. There are some exemptions for those under 2 and for medical reasons. Parents need to register for transportation by August 9th, but you can still do so now by going to the district webpage or website and going to the transportation page, and you could submit a request for transportation. Parents will be notified of transportation schedules on August 17th. Parents can review their student schedule via the Ride 360 webpage, Ride 360 app, or call the transportation office for schedules. Bus passes will be required. Bus passes will be issued the first 2 weeks of school by transportation staff. And district staff can view the student bus schedules via our connection through Tiger Technology. Contact transportation for username and password.
Ms. Lugatoff, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Welcome, families. Oxnard School District is proud to announce that we will continue to offer breakfast and lunch to all students at no cost. After-school program will also include our Super Snack Supper program. At this time, all meals will be served to our students in the cafeteria, and we will not have any salad bar operational at this time. In regards to student dining, public health has guided us to maximize physical distancing, and due to each site facility layout, our site administrators will be making determinations on where student dining will take place. Next slide, please. Several years ago, the state implemented the local control funding formula that changed how school districts are funded. Qualifications for the LCFF revenue is established through the Family Income Survey. Child Nutrition Services will be processing the LCFF income form, and we will have these completed by our families. Each school site front office will partner with our department to ensure that all families complete the form and that we have one form returned per family. There are two paths for our families to access this document. One is through our district webpage, through the LCFF link on the front page of the OSD website. Here, our parents can complete the form electronically. The second is through the parent back to school packet. You'll find a blank form that can be filled out and returned to your school site front office. Our goal is to achieve 100% return to ensure full district funding from our California Department of Education, and to continue to practice our policy to provide meals at no cost for all of our families. Thank you for partnering with our department, and to complete this form and return it to your school site by September 29th. Thank you.
Next slide. Good evening, families. My name is Dr. Torres. I'm the Assistant Superhuman Resources, and I will be discussing some of the protocols that we have in place. First of all, here at Oxnard School District, we do value parents' participation in the students' education. However, currently in our current situation, we want to try to limit how many individuals are on campus or in the classrooms. So in regards to visitors on campus, visitors, they will only be allowed on campus to conduct essential business. And what do we mean by some essential business, such as ELAC, school site councils, IEPs, if your student has one. And so we want to ensure that we minimize as much as possible. So when you do comply, when you do come onto campus, we want to ensure that you're complying with the rules. Face coverings will be required at all times while on campus. Parents will be required to sign in, both not only just for security, but also to assist with any contact tracing if needed. And basically, face coverings will be required unless you are outside. So, and then within the classroom and office volunteers will not be permitted until further notice. Next slide. So, OSD, we strongly encourage all of our students and employees to get vaccinated. Obviously, the research suggests and shows that individuals that are vaccinated have a smaller risk of exposure, of sickness, or hospitalization. So the more we can go ahead and get vaccinated, the quicker we can go ahead and get back to our original state. And so we highly encourage that you vaccinate your child if they are 12 years or older, or if you are, and in addition to our staff. OSD will follow the government guidelines for COVID-19. That includes our Ventura County Public Health and our California Department of Public Health guidelines. And as we know, those are continuously changing. And as they change, we will go ahead and adjust our protocols to ensure that we can maximize the safety of your students as well as our employees and, of course, our community. Same thing, we expect our employees and students to continue some of the basic practices that we've have done during this pandemic, which is washing your hands frequently, making sure your mouth and nose are covered when coughing or sneezing. And then of course, we encourage all of your student or your children to bring refillable water bottles. We have changed out our water fountains to ensure that our refillable water bottles are accessible. Next slide. As stated, when indoors at a school site, it is required that everyone wear face coverings. That includes employees, guests, and students, regardless of their vaccination status or if they are eating or drinking. While they're outdoors, face coverings are currently optional. And when they're on the bus, face coverings will be required for students and adults, again, regardless of their vaccination status. All students and or staff who refuse to wear face coverings will be subject to our progressive discipline process as for the campus, and making sure that we continue to support our health policy within the district and making sure we keep everyone safe. So we encourage everyone, please wear your mask when you are on campus. Next slide. Screening and symptoms checks. So we will basically be requiring our parents to make sure that they do a daily screening, a daily checks, just as we did when our students returned back, making sure we take their temperatures, making sure that if your child has a temperature above 99.5 degrees, that they are not coming to school, making sure they don't have any signs of cold, flu symptoms or coughs. So and this also will be required by our employees to make sure that they're doing daily checks. And one of the things, if you're coming to our school sites, we will still have available masks and a check-in area for you at the school sites if you need to come and conduct essential business. And if they're sick, we encourage them to stay home to prevent the spread of any other illness to anyone else. So we, at each of our school sites, we do have a care room in which if students are exhibiting symptoms or test positive or anything like that, we can basically take them, place them into a care room while we are contacting the parents, as well as the district has made an effort over the summertime. We now have every school site is fully staffed with health technicians or health assistants to help support the needs of our COVID, as well as help address our community. Next. Physical distancing. So I know this is a big question. In general, physical distancing is not going to be required according to our guidelines, according to the health guidelines. There's no requirement at this point in time. However, we do encourage, when possible, let's keep them apart as much as possible. And desk shields are no longer required. Desk shields, I saw a bunch of text questions on there about the desk shields. The desk shields were never truly required. However, it was one of the mitigating factors that we as a district took when we returned back. And so one of the things that we also realized is that with our desk shields, they prevented our students from being able to clearly see the board, as well as we disinfected, because every night each of our rooms are disinfected. We found that the desk shields were basically not as clean as we wanted them or clear for our students to see through. So those are some of the factors that we had to take a look at in regards to the desk shields. So, and then of course, sharing of objects and material. You know, when COVID first started, you know, we all basically were afraid to touch everything because it was unknown. The research, we didn't have any research. However, a year and a half into this pandemic, the research is showing that basically there's a very low risk of transmission from surface and or sharing objects. So students will be able to share materials, supplies, and instructional and devices. So next slide. Okay, hand sanitizers. We will continue to have our hand sanitizers throughout the stations, throughout the school site, as well as in the classrooms. And students will be encouraged to participate in healthy habits such as cleaning your hands every time you go to the restroom, every time you're, if you're touching things, just a constant good habit. And, I do also want to talk about the face shields. The face shields did not prevent anything also, the research out there shows that it was not, with a face shield doesn't prevent the spread of the virus or anything like that. So I just wanted to throw that in there also. So next slide. Mr. Miller.
Hello and good evening. Dana Miller, Director of Facilities. So maintaining our indoor environment as safely as possible has been our priority since the beginning of the pandemic. So 100% of the outside air available is being delivered into our classrooms. An equal amount of the indoor air is being exhausted to the outside. All air, supply air is filtered through the MERV 13 filters. There are also air purifiers that have been installed into every room and are operated 24/7 to maintain a circulation, and their filters are changed as the unit indicates it. So there is no delay. Next slide, please. So cleaning, our custodians are finishing up summer cleaning and will be resuming their regular cleaning assignments. We have corded Clorox 360 disinfectant electrostatic machines located at each site. And we also have supplied cordless electrostatic disinfecting sprayers to each and every custodian. We will continue to respond immediately to any report of a positive COVID-19 case for disinfection. Thank you.
Okay, personal protective equipment. The district will continue to support the purchase of and providing supplies such as face masks. They will be available to all students and or staff that request it, as indicated previously. Hand sanitizer stations will be continued to be used in place throughout the entire campus, including inside the classrooms. The refillable water stations will be continued also throughout the campus, as well as N95 masks for our employees will be provided. And, teachers will also be, as indicated, we're required to have masks when you are on campus. Masks will be required of everyone on campus when students are there. Yeah, so, and okay, next slide. Okay, so our COVID exposure reporting portal for our parents. If your students are wake up and they're sick, or they come home and they're sick, we actually have a portal for you to go to. It's on our district website under the COVID reporting, and basically you can go into that portal and report that your child is sick. And this is not in place of calling school or reporting an absence. This is just reporting that your child is having symptoms of COVID symptoms. Therefore, once the information is inputted into the portal, our staff at the school sites will follow up and do contact tracing and identify what are the protocols for when that child can come in. So if they're asymptomatic, symptomatic, they will provide you the information as to what are the next steps. So there is a portal for all parents as well as our staff to report any potential exposures or symptoms of exposure. And as indicated, we have a COVID response team at each of the school sites that have been trained in order to ensure that we investigate it. And one of the things that's important also to understand is that as a school district, we do work very closely with the local Department of Public Health here in Ventura, in which we are constantly collaborating and conducting investigations as to determine and make sure that not only are our teachers safe, our staff is safe, our students are safe, but also within our community they're safe. So we work very closely with our local public health department. And so just remember, just report everything to our portal. And this is what our portal looks like. Currently, we do capture any exposures, which if your child is sick or anything, you can go onto the yellow tab and say, click here to report a COVID-19 exposure. And then we are also capturing vaccinations for our current employees. And
so as we are finishing the presentation, thank you, Dr. Torres. As we are finishing the presentation, we want to remind and request our families to fill out the local control funding formula survey. Our goal is to get responses back from 100% of our families. This survey helps the school district receive its funding from the state of California. So please take a minute to locate this information. You can find links to all of the components that we've spoken about today on the district webpage. If you go to the district webpage, there's a webinar tile. If you click on that, it opens up a page that has the links for this webinar, the link to complete the LCFF family survey, the links for applying for transportation, and the link to apply for the after-school program. Again, we would like to say welcome to the 2021-22 school year. And if you have any students that need to enroll, please contact our enrollment center. For the remainder of this time, our cameras will be off as we spend a couple minutes wrapping up the questions we are answering in the question and answer. Anything that has not been answered will be reviewed, and we will work to establish some frequently asked questions that would be posted to our parents page on the Oxnard School District webpage. Thank you for joining us.